You're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. It's more fun to believe. Third year bonus. Hey everybody, we're off and running. Thank you for listening to another episode of Me and Paranormal You. My name is Ryan Singer. This is a third year bonus. That's a great way to start. I want to show you this before we get started. You see that? That's the Orin necklace. Fun fact: I've been a minister I just had my 2-year anniversary of being like an ordained minister yesterday, and I have performed 2 different wedding ceremonies for friends of mine, and I have received a gift for being the minister to officiate the wedding. And both weddings, strangely, the people very, very close to me at both times, both gifted me the Orin pendant on a chain. So, they know me, right? What a great gift. So, that's, Jeff and Kat and Aaron and Tyler, thank you for the pendant. Somewhere in the one that Jeff and Kat gave me now. I just thought that was interesting. If you know me, I love The Never Ending Story. It's probably one of my favorite movies of all time. If not, what is my favorite movie of all time? Not probably. So today I want to talk a little bit about a couple things I've been sleeping on, which there's no way I should have been sleeping on these things because they're incredible. One of them is Expedition Bigfoot. I have been binging Bigfoot shows. I've been watching Alaskan Killer Bigfoot. The interview I had with Polly Wyram last week went up. She was on Alaskan Killer Bigfoot episode 3. I think there have been 7 episodes so far. The 8th episode, if I'm not mistaken, would air today, the day this comes out, and available on Discovery Plus, the app, probably the next day. How am I not going to have the Discovery Plus app? I have that now. I pay for it because, how am I not going to have that app? It's got all of the shows, right? So, and I'm wearing a shirt from my buddy Torkel. Great shirt. It actually has, Anyway. I hope you're doing well. Happy New Year again. I guess it's not too late to say Happy New Year because it's still January. So we'll still go with that, and we'll still say Happy New Year to you. I hope you're doing well. I'm feeling much better. I'm feeling close to 100% now. I'm feeling rocking and rolling. I want to start this off with, oh, shoot, I forgot my reading glasses. I've got them here. I need reading glasses now, especially when you're reading the book. The Trickster and the Paranormal by George P. Hansen, because the type is pretty small for a guy who's 45 years old. This is page 428. Anyway, this book is incredible. All the episodes of Me and Paranormal You are going to YouTube now. So I'm showing people who are watching the video, The Trickster and the Paranormal. This book it's got thickness to it. It's a great book. Anyone who's interested in the paranormal, I highly recommend just having this book almost as a reference book. You can go back, you can pretty much open to anything you want and read, and you can learn something. You can get some great information just about all kinds of things. Pertaining to the Trickster, anyway. Next week, I've got an interview scheduled with John Tenney, and we are going to discuss. I had this realization that, the last 5 years in American culture, there seems to be the rise of the Trickster, taking many different forms. So I'm going to have an incredible conversation with John next week on the Mindcast. That'll drop sometime next week. What a great person to talk to about that specific topic. It just occurred to me, I was like, when you frame things or you frame individuals or phenomena that are happening specifically in American culture for the last 5 years through the lens of the Trickster, understanding that we're undergoing great cultural change. And one of the hallmarks of the Trickster is arriving to, the liminal space. And liminality occurs, a lot of rites of passages, change, disruption happening in one's life between this and between that. And I firmly believe any society has periods of change constantly, right? That's just the nature of the way things go, because society is constantly evolving. If you're lucky, I suppose it is. This speaks specifically to that point, and about how the paranormal and how things unknown are framed in the general context in a society that focuses on rationality. The subtopic here is Western rationality and rationalization, written by George P. Hansen. I just want to read just a paragraph to kind of set the tone for what's going to be happening here, or what I hope to be discussing here tonight. I mean, who knows who's going to show up and what's going to happen, right? The dominant cultural myth now is that the world can be entirely grasped by rational means. Any exceptions are considered trivial. This goes almost completely unquestioned, particularly within science. The myth generates an aversion to the irrational and supernatural. Those are not only neglected, but society discourages serious consideration of them. Our culture has a variety of mechanisms that lead one to think that the supernatural doesn't really exist and to equate it with the fictional. How did this come about? After all, the supernatural was recognized for millennia. Were all our ancestors deluded, superstitious, dim-witted, and irrational human beings? A broad view of history, theology, and philosophy is needed to recognize what happened. He goes on to talk about Max Weber and a lot of the studies Max Weber has done or did over the years. People who have dedicated their lives to social sciences and anthropology and studying the likes of all this kind of stuff, are much better equipped to discuss, the finer details of such a thing. I can focus on here and there and, some things that really stick out. But let's be honest, I'm a stand-up comedian who loves the paranormal, and, I dedicate a decent amount of my time to studying and investigating and experiencing, if at all possible, the paranormal and the supernatural. But, I got a family to think about. I do have family, but I guess I don't have a family of my own, so to speak. So what's interesting is we have a rise in paranormal programming, paranormal television, paranormal podcasts. We've been doing this podcast, 7 or 8 years? I'm not even exactly sure when I started anymore. It's been that long ago. But why is there the rise? Is it just because more people are finding the technology easy to use and understand that they can make their own content and believe that they have a voice that can contribute to the conversation? And that is a large part of it. And I say, hurrah, hurrah, good for you. That's not me being sarcastic, by the way. There is no limit to the amount of voices that should be allowed to be in the conversation and offer their input. Now, some people will have more informed opinions or take more firm stance when it comes to planting their feet in the paranormal world and what do they think, like the big argument between Bigfoot being flesh and blood, a primate, or being having supernatural paranormal attributes, qualities, etc., which you probably understand that I'm on that side of the fence. There's too much strange phenomena associated with Bigfoot, and there has been, for me to just think it's a primate that's been, as of yet, undiscovered. That's not to say that it can't be, but it's limiting to describe it as such, in my opinion. Whether that's an informed or uninformed opinion, that's for you to decide, but that doesn't really matter, right, when it comes to that. The fact is, the important part of this, to me, is the fact that many, many people are having this conversation nowadays. The more and more voices that chime in, the more people who feel comfortable sharing their stories, the more people who maybe open their mind a little bit to not only Bigfoot, but to the idea that the paranormal and the supernatural are part of our natural and normal world. And sooner or later, the term paranormal will be a misnomer. Supernatural will fall by the wayside, and it will be natural. This is a world that I think we are headed to. Evolution can take time, a long, long time, and that includes evolution of thought, evolution of belief, and the evolution of faith. Is there a big difference between having faith in Bigfoot and having faith in God? You can draw a lot of parallels when seemingly you wouldn't think they're maybe that connected. I've been sleeping on Expedition Bigfoot. I have been asleep on Expedition Bigfoot. I have been in a deep, deep slumber. The show is very well made. Okay. Bryce Johnson, Russell Accord, Ronnie Marea, Dr. Marea, Mayer. Sorry, Ronnie, I'm blanking on your last name right now. And not to mention the camera crews that go on these shows. The people who are filming this are out in the woods, oftentimes, you know, seemingly in more susceptible to being injured or attacked or whatever than the investigators themselves, who have they don't always have their hands free because they're using equipment, but it is it is admirable what they do. I mean, they're climbing mountains, they're going into caves, et cetera, et cetera. And Expedition Bigfoot is, let me tell you, excuse me, I never cough unless I'm talking into this microphone. Maybe I should give the mic a COVID test. Don't get people started on that. So I'm trying to see, are my glasses picking up the ring light? I guess when I look up, they are. Like right when I'm looking at the camera. That's got to be a little bit annoying to anybody watching this. Let me move that just like that, and I think you can still see me. But anyway, so let's get back to the program, as I probably should have figured this out in advance. Yeah, it's still there. I don't need these glasses on. I'm not reading anymore. That solves the problem. So, Expedition Bigfoot, let's lay out why it's, I think, worth your time to watch this show if you haven't. And if you have watched the show, you've probably enjoyed it, is my guess. Or you probably are currently enjoying it if you're watching it now. I'm not sure when the second season ended, but it's been a minute. But, I mean, aside from the fact that they have all of the best gadgets you could ever possibly imagine having at your disposal when you're doing like paranormal research, I mean, it's bonkers. They've got all the latest, greatest technology. They're bringing in, like blimps to fly around and map out area. They're doing LiDAR mapping, which is just like next level terrain mapping of large areas to have detailed maps that the regular investigator, like someone like myself, if I were to go back out into the woods looking for the elusive Sasquatch again, which I'm not going to lie, I'm getting juiced up about. I'm watching these shows, I'm getting juiced up about it. I got to get back out there. After visiting Florida last October and staying the night at the place where I had my, terrifying experience, I'm feeling much better about it. I'm feeling much more confident about going back out. I'm actually even kind of dreaming about owning a mountain house again to some degree. Will that ever, we'll see about that. But, I mean, besides the fact that it has all the latest, greatest technology that you could dream of, the team, it brings credibility with it. Now, here's the interesting part. I mean, to me, the interesting part. I talk on here constantly about the paranormal community needing to break away from this need for scientific validation. The idea that we need science's validation or we are nothing. It is one thing to understand that science has explained many of the mysteries of our physical world and even of our conscious world. It's another thing to rely on the limits as they stand now of science, to have explained everything already, and to feel invalid if you don't fit within the parameters as they are accepted by the scientific community to be real or to be rational or to be material. Hansen touches on this. There's no space for it. When a society decides, when a culture has concluded that science is the last voice to be heard, when science has the final say, everything outside of those parameters and what science says is fair game becomes inaccessible, becomes immaterial, becomes unreasonable, becomes fantasy. And why do we find the need to marginalize the paranormal or the supernatural in the scientific community? Is the paranormal field, is it discrediting the scientific field in any way? Is the paranormal field making any kind of undercut move on science? Does the rise in spirituality, the number of people coming back to understanding that intuition is a big part of who we are, and it's very in vogue to talk smack about empaths, which is something I don't like. Many comedians, not many, at least a handful of comedians, have bits. They, just because I'm around comedy, they have bits, making fun of people who think they're empaths. Many of them are funny bits, and many of them are from very good comedians. But it's very in vogue to be dismissive of people who understand that they've tapped into another level of their intuition, of their understanding, of their connectiveness to other human beings and to the environment and to things other than what are bound to Earth, potentially. I find that troubling. But it's because there's no room, there's no air in the container that is our society for this to be accepted as a thing. All the paranormal air has been sucked out of the room, because that is the way our society is currently built. So, does it have to be that way? No, obviously it doesn't. There is a burgeoning paranormal, supernatural, spiritual community. All these different roads have intersected at Rome. All fringe roads lead to Rome. We've seen that convergence manifest itself in many different ways. We don't need to get into the good or the bad here tonight. I've talked about problems in the paranormal in a previous series with Darcy Staniforth, who actually just had a TEDx talk you can check out. So, give a Google. Just give a Google. And we'll have Darcy back on the show to talk about that. Hopefully very soon. But why does society need to marginalize the paranormal world and to dismiss accounts of the unbelievable, right? And when we say unbelievable, it should be noted that we are using science's standard of definition here as being unbelievable. These things were not unbelievable to our ancestors. In fact, they were just part of life. And yet today, they are unbelievable, and they are dismissed as being untrue, fanciful, an imagination gone wild, off the tracks. When did that shift happen? Why did that shift happen? Smarter people than me can probably give you a better answer to that, specifically when that cultural shift happened. Certain scientists were ignored so long because of the dominant culture being religion, right? The pendulum has now swung to the other side, where not religious people, but paranormal people are now being dismissed by the scientific world. You see how the pendulum is flowing back and forth to either those in power dismiss those not in power, and it's just like and no matter what power system it is, they will scratch and claw and fight to maintain that position of power. We see that manifest itself in all kinds of ways in our society. And there really has been the rise of the trickster, in my opinion. And it just kind of really occurred to me earlier this evening. It's a full moon. It's a full wolf moon tonight. So happy full moon. I hope you got your crystals out there charging. I got my Crystallize jar out on my deck or whatever it is, balcony, charging under the full moon tonight. Anyway, Crystallize, available on iPhone and Android right now. You can just download it while you're listening to it, and you can give it a 5-star review, and you can write a 5-star review. You can write a glowing review of the app. That'd be wonderful. So why? What's the point of keeping us out, so to speak? Well, it's because we're trying to join a club we don't need to be a part of. That's where I fall on this. And that's what I mean when I say we don't need science to validate our experiences as real. People say that there's not any evidence of Bigfoot. And I say, well, what about the thousands and thousands of people who have seen Bigfoot? That is evidence. Those are sightings. That is first-hand experience of seeing this creature. That is evidence. And to say it is not evidence is to have the frame of mind of the ultra-modern scientific community that you need a quote, you need not even a quote, you need an actual dead body, physical specimen of Bigfoot to prove its existence. And I'm not here to, tell people who are actively out there, people who love Bigfoot, I'm not here to tell them that they don't need to keep trying to fulfill their mission of killing a Bigfoot and bringing it in so they can therefore protect Bigfoot later. I'm not here to say that. But what I'm saying is we have evidence. It's there. And all you have to do is listen. And the idea that first-hand accounts and retellings of these experiences where people have seen or interacted in some way with a Sasquatch, to say that is not evidence, to me is foolish. It's incorrect. And using this modern scientific definition of what evidence is and isn't is our first mistake. To me, it's that simple. I don't know what else I can tell you about that. It's that easy, baby. It's just that easy. Indeed. So, I hope I can extract the audio of this, by the way. I'm sure I can. So, what else was I saying here? Oh, Expedition Bigfoot. I was so asleep on this show. I mean, it's expertly made, the way it's edited and the way it's produced. It's excellently made. I have not listened to Bigfoot Collectors Club, the podcast with Bryce Johnson, who's a big Bigfoot. He's a big fan of Bigfoot, or an enthusiast of Bigfoot. This was my introduction to Bryce Johnson. I'll probably check out the podcast. It's just really well made. The team's put together. That is I do have a problem with the show that I'm not afraid to talk about. In the first season, RPG, there was this guy named Ryan, and I don't have a problem with it because the guy's name's Ryan. I promise. This isn't, Club Ryan teaming up together to be like, well, hey, WTF, man, what's going on? But there was an investigator RPG, and this isn't going to be a big spoiler for you, but on the first season, very early on, very, very early on, something happens and he's experiencing like this really physical discomfort, like a sickness, and he has to leave the expedition, and he's replaced for medical reasons, and they never explain what happened to him. They never give you an update about if he's okay. I could Google it. I know how to use a Google. But, come on. Give us an update on RPG. What happened to him? And all I have to do is Google it because the first season's multiple years old. But the evidence that's collected during this show is very, very fascinating, and it's well worth your time. I believe it's an engaging television program. They did a great job making this show. I haven't been a huge fan, and when I say a huge fan, I mean someone who's going to tell everybody they know about it. Doesn't mean I dislike something if I'm not a huge fan of it. But when it comes to the paranormal programming, I have a different idea of what I'd like to see. I'd like to see a little more lightheartedness. Not to say that this isn't serious, because when it comes to the two biggest discoveries we can have in our world as we know it, that death isn't real and that we're not alone in the universe, they're very serious topics when you consider the ramifications of such discoveries. But why does everybody have to be so damn tough? And not everybody is so damn tough, okay? And now, for the record, I haven't been able to watch every paranormal show that's ever been made that's on television right now. I don't have the time. Most people don't have the time to watch everything that's going on everywhere all the time, okay? There's too, like I said, the burgeoning paranormal world is a direct reflection of the cultural change and the liminal space that we've been in collectively, right? When you have the death of God happening, on a mass scale, you have climate change physically changing the world in a major way with the underlying current of fucking doom that lies under that. If you haven't seen the movie, don't look up. You got to watch it. It's a great movie. Adam McKay is number one in my book as far as making movies in the last 7 years. Any Adam McKay movie, I'm on board. Not to mention Succession. I think I'm right about that, right? Him and Will Ferrell. What a fucking TV program. It's amazing. So, why is the paranormal world so tough? That's so when I say I'm not a big fan of all the shows, I mean, there's certain shows that I love. Hellier is at the top of the list. Expedition Bigfoot has wedged its way towards the top of my list. I think Seth Breedlove's making some good stuff. There's some interesting stuff that Seth Breedlove's been putting out. We've had him on the show before. I got to have him back because he's been making a lot of stuff. He's been making a lot of paranormal programming. Small Town Monsters is the name of his production outfit, if I'm not mistaken. We got to get him back on. So I enjoy what Seth's doing. Hellier's at the top of my list. Expedition Bigfoot is knocking it out of the park, in my opinion. And I guess it's more specifically the paranormal shows about ghosts and things. The paranormal world has this idea that we have to be that we're tough, or we can't be intimidated or scared. And when you can't be scared by going into these haunted places, you got to be tough, right? I mean, because you have to have some courage. It's a very specific type of courage that it takes to go into these places and investigate the scariest of them all. And I get that. You have to have courage, and so to some degree you have to have some mental toughness there. But the idea that we all have to be portraying ourselves as these badasses is it's funny without meaning to be funny to me. Take it for what it's worth. That's my opinion on that. So when I say that, there's not really all the, and I still haven't seen Ghost Brothers, and I hear that there is maybe a lighthearted approach to that show. I haven't had a chance to check that out yet. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to check them out yet, but I'll get around to it. What I mean is, I want some joy. Give me some joy, give me some laughter, and give me some joy, because that's what's happening when you're on expeditions, and even when you're on paranormal investigations. Every time I've been on one, they've been, for the most part, they've been a ton of fun. There's a lot of fun that is happening. Do people want to see you having fun, or do they want to see evidence? They can see both, is the point. You can have both of those. Not everything has to have the drone sound effects like cut to nothing happened. I mean, everybody's familiar with the tropes, if you've watched even one episode of one show. So that's what we work towards. And and I'm currently, not that, is this all a big plug? Well, for those who know the show, they know that my hour-long stand-up special that I filmed at Poasttown Elementary last October, we're pretty far along in the editing process of that. I have a meeting this week about next steps regarding that project. That'll be out sometime this year. 100% it'll be out sometime this year. And also 100%, the documentary, for the 2 nights before we filmed, I was in there with a small team of my friends who I investigate with. Jim Perry, Karen Rontowski, Alex Mastretta. We were joined by POV Paranormal, the house team. We're also joined by Tim Irie of Big Country Paranormal, based out of Southern Ohio, and Epic Paranormal, Eric Connor from Epic Paranormal, based out of Kentucky. I got to be honest, maybe at one point there was maybe a little too many cooks in the kitchen for one of the nights when we were trying to do some stuff, but I don't know, I think it all worked out the way it was supposed to, and I was really happy with the investigation on the whole for 2 days. I went back last month in December, and it was just myself. I got to join Eric on one of his nights where he goes solo at the school. He was there with his girlfriend, and 3 of us went around and investigated, had a good time. I got a bunch more footage there. Going back, hopefully at the end of February with Karen Rontowski, and we're talking about doing a live stream. So the plan is we're going to be live streaming from Poasttown at the end of February. So I'll obviously keep you posted about that. The point is, I'm editing all of that. I'm in the early stages of editing together all that footage. I got my buddy Adam in Florida helping me out on some of the audio-visual syncing of files and organization, because that's like he's a magician in that area, and so he's helping me out. I got my buddy Dan working on some original music for it. And currently conducting more and more interviews, etc., for that project that it's tentatively called The Bridge. Why is it called The Bridge? Well, I think that's obvious. We want to bridge, the high strains with the familiar, you know what I mean? And also bridge the serious with the funny. You're allowed to have fun. I mean, we had a lot of fun doing those investigations. And you don't see that side of it portrayed necessarily. At least not predominantly. Mostly it's like super serious, man. This is super serious stuff, okay? So, and when you're dealing with demons, if demons and dark energy are involved, I get it. Things get serious fast, okay? And maybe it's my nature of, wanting to be a comedian my entire life, that I'm not drawn to that. And I don't really have an interest. I'm not a demon fighter, okay? I'm not here to try to banish demons. Like I say, the only time I want to smell sulfur is when my mom's cooking eggs for breakfast. That's if I'm visiting home and she cooks. It's the only time I ever want to smell sulfur. So I'd like to see some more of that. And so be the change you want to see in the world, right? So, you try to sell these shows to people. No networks are really interested because they don't think people want comedy, et cetera, et cetera. So you're like, okay, I'll just make it on my own. So we're working on that. I'm working on that. I got some people helping me out on that. And then will I try to sell it? Who knows? I'll probably just self-release it on YouTube. Some behind-the-scenes footage, though, is available on Patreon, patreon.com/Ryan Singer. You should check out the Patreon page. I've revamped it. I'm amping up the Patreon. I've added 2 new tiers. It's been $1 and $3 forever. So for a while, I think for a couple of years now, I'm really amping up my production over there. So the $11 level will have obviously more benefits. And then the $20 level is for those who love the paranormal and also love stand-up. There's really no rules at that level. So it could either be like, oh, I'm just here for the paranormal. Maybe it's not the level for you. Or maybe it's like, I want the paranormal and I want, comedy and I want characters and I want videos and all kinds of weird stuff, potentially. Then it's the perfect level for you. So I say, go over to the Patreon and check it out. There's already a handful of videos posted at the highest level and the $11 level that are ready for you. And I'm going to be doing multiple videos a week, if I'm not mistaken. So, and I know I've been saying that for years, but I'm actually doing it. So I don't have any road dates. I don't have to leave town till the end of next month. So I got plenty of time to be making videos. There's characters and stuff over there. Who knows who's going to show up? Maybe Todd will get his own video. Hey, man, that'd be great, man. Man, I'd love to get a video, man. And it's just like, I'm a little camera shy, bro, but, it's cool, man. All love. Okay, Todd. We'll keep that in mind. Thanks, buddy. Don't sleep on Expedition Bigfoot is all I'm saying. And are we going to discover Bigfoot? Will there be evidence of Sasquatch in my lifetime? Well, it depends how long I live. People who are being born today are expected to live to 100. Do you understand that? That's like a 30-plus year increase, I think, from the time I was born in 1976. So by the time people born today are 45 years old, people will be expected to age to be 130 years old. Are you kidding me, bro? So when they say, 40 is the new 30, or 50 is the new 30, I mean, who knows? They're right, probably. So if you're like me and you're in your 40s and you've never been married, don't have kids, don't feel so bad about it. You know what I mean? We all have different paths. Don't be shamed by society's structure telling you what you should have done or should be by now. Be you. Be the person you're supposed to be that brings you joy. I am fully domesticated currently. I just don't have a ring on the finger. But when I say currently, I just mean it doesn't mean it's going to end. I really don't see that changing. So, happily. So, so I wanted to talk about what I've been sleeping on in the paranormal world. Wanted to give you some updates. Crystallize is available. Please go download it. I mean, I think you're going to enjoy it. We got great people involved. It's just me and my 3 cousins. We're the whole team making that thing go. And we've got 200 more crystals on their way. We've got the hardest part of that done, and they're going to be being trained very soon. So the identification capabilities of the app are going to exponentially increase as time goes on. So if you find yourself downloading the app and you're not super thrilled with the identification capabilities of the app, trust me, you're not alone. I'd love this thing to be perfect. And, but how do you teach AI the intricate differences between some of these crystals that look so familiar, right? It's a process. It takes some time. So, give us a shout. And, working on providing, direct resources for ethically sourced crystals for you as well. We've got some irons in the fire regarding that, and we'll be able to showcase those people who are going above and beyond, even though there's no industry standard currently or requirement to do so. We're going to bring those people to you so you can purchase crystals from those people and feel good about feeling good, right? So that's exciting. I've got some tour dates booked. July's booking up, Cincinnati, Louisville. I'll be in Detroit at some point. I'll be back in Asheville. I'll be in Morgantown. I'm working on booking other dates. I'm going to be, I believe I'm going to be at the Cambry House and Farm, maybe doing a combo show / investigation in October. who knows? Maybe a very familiar face will be joining me who also performs stand-up comedy, who also has been on this podcast a bunch, who also does paranormal investigations. And that person might share a first name with my mother, Karen. So we're seeing if it works. We're going to see if it works. Karen and I have done investigation. We've only led one investigation together where we, had people were available to come in. My buddy Alex and Darcy, they helped us out on that as well. So, we're going to see what happens. We're, fingers crossed, we'll manifest it. We're hoping to put together a small run of shows where Karen and I have been talking about that for years. So we'll see. I'm not trying to let the cat out of the bag, but, hey, there's no harm in letting you know Karen and I have been talking about doing this for a while. And we're going to see if we can make it happen. So, let's let the paranormal air back into the jar of this world, right? And let's abandon our need for scientific validation. And I understand the benefits of having science and specifically scientific equipment when going on expeditions or doing paranormal investigations. I mean, who doesn't want to use top of the line stuff? That brings me back full circle. Finally, we got to the full circle here, where Dr. Maria Mayer, she's one of the world's leading primatologists, is really bringing some scientific method technique to the Expedition Bigfoot. And it's, it is interesting. It's fun to watch. It's interesting. And when it comes to trying to put a new species of animal on the map, I understand. I like that approach. I can appreciate that approach. I don't think I'm ever going to just befriend a Sasquatch and convince them to walk into like the Hall of Records with me or wherever we'd have to go and just like say, hey, see, they're real. But hey, not with that attitude, I won't, right? Who knows? Maybe I could do that. With that attitude that I'll never do it, then it'll never happen. Let's try to do some positive manifestation as opposed to negative manifestation here. So yeah. Check out Expedition Bigfoot. As always, check out Hellier, 2 seasons. It's on YouTube. Check it out. Check out, Seth Breedlove stuff as well. And check out the new Patreon. I got a couple new tiers, or just stay at the tier you're at. And thank you so much for being a patron. We'll list off the names again next week. And please download and rate 5 stars, Crystallize, and write a nice review for us. That would really help us out in the rankings. We're happy to have the app out finally. So if you're waiting on your free credit, guess what? You're getting that this week. I've been told that is all taken care of. I was working until 3 a.m. last night on some of that stuff. So you're going to have your free credit this week. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, the 17th of January, let's see, what day is it today? No, the 18th, January 18th, 2022, you should have your free credit by the end of the week. And, so feel free to download the free app and just use the free version for now. And then you will be receiving an email with instructions on how to get your free access. You really don't have to do much. But it'll all be laid out there for you. And I don't really want to tell anybody how to do it right now because it might mess up the process. All right? Okay, so I don't want to be responsible for that. So anyway, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope that you're enjoying January. I can't wait till it warms up. I mean, it was 70 degrees here yesterday, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But I can't wait till it warms up in the rest of the country when I'm traveling there. And if I haven't been to your city in a while, I'd love to come. Let me know. Reach out. Let me know. Give me a follow on Instagram at Rising, on Twitter at Rising. I've got on Twitter at Me Paranormal You. There's no and in the middle. I'm trying to do a group, see what everybody thinks, because I'm going to be coming out with my top 25 tricksters of all time list at some point soon. I'm working on compiling that, so I'd be interested to see what everybody else thinks the top 25 tricksters of all time are. Obviously, everybody's input is greatly appreciated because that's a very comprehensive list to try to come up with, because there's tricksters throughout history. I'll be having a great conversation with John Tenney about that. Or not about the 25 top tricksters of all time, but about the rise of the trickster, specifically in American culture and worldwide, in fact, in the last 5 years. And what does it mean, and why is it happening? And, outside of, climate change, cultural change, all these other things that are happening, even on individual levels you could even say gender change, sexuality change, things like this. There's a lot of change happening in our culture. And I believe that tricksters are popping up everywhere, right? Some of them bigger, some of them more prominent than others, people, things, etc., entities. And so is the rise of the paranormal any any surprise? And I think we could start putting these pieces together and be like, that's interesting, and no, that's actually not surprising. During moments of cultural upheaval, UFO sightings typically spike and increase. And I'm trying to remember which book I read that in. It might have been Trickster and the Paranormal by George B. Hansen, or it might have been one of these other myriad of books, that I've been reading and referencing over the last couple of years. But that's an interesting phenomenon to think about. So, are there more Bigfoot sightings during cultural upheaval? Are there more ghost sightings during cultural upheaval? These are all things to consider when trying to consider the effects of the trickster making themselves prominent in some form, some shape, some way. And boy, are we in the thick of it right now. So I hope you can embrace that and be the change you want to see in the world. And if you got suggestions for guests, make sure you hit me up on social media. Let me know. I'm on TikTok, Ryan Singer Comedy. You can follow me on TikTok now. So go give a follow. If I get to 1,000 followers, I'll be able to do live TikToks. I can't do live TikToks currently. I can do live Instagram, so follow me on Instagram as well if you haven't already. Dr. Darren Cornwall from the short film Numeris and Tia, the mockumentary I made 2 years ago, is going to be posting regular videos about his thoughts on. He's a quantum philosophilist. Am I saying that right? I should know if I'm saying it right. I think I invented the word. Philosophist. He's a quantum philosophist. A quantum, he's a quantum physicist and a philosopher. He's a quantum philosophist? Yeah, a quantum philosophist. God, I should have just said he was a theosophist and gave a hat tip to Blavatsky and been done with it. So we've got, Trip Coltrane, Last of the Cowboy Poets. He's over there on TikTok and on Instagram as well. And more characters. Carl Treadway the Seventh will be showing up. He's a famous monster hunter. He thinks his great-great-great-grandfather was killed by a Sasquatch. So there's a lot of drama there for him. Plus other characters. Maybe Todd will show up. So thank you. I love you. I hope you love yourself. I hope you're taking care of yourself. Drink half a gallon of water every day. Start to feel better. And, I hope to see you soon at a show when I'm out on the road. If not, I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.